Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Carolyn, and this channel is all about true crime, mystery, and anything abnormal. I highly recommend subscribing because this channel is definitely a vibe. So today's story is about the McStay family. The story of the McStay family is solved, but this story has so many conspiracy theories about it. And I'm not going to go through all of the conspiracy theories because the case is now solved. So we know most of the conspiracy theories that went on while the family was missing are not true. And bizarrely enough, the Hillside Strangler also comes up in this story. So buckle up because it's a wild one. The McStay family consisted of 4 family members. There was the father, Joseph McStay, who was 40 years old when the family went missing. There was the wife and mother, Summer, who was 43 when the family went missing. There's 2 sons. There was Gianni, who was 4 years old when the family went missing. And there's also Joseph Jr., who had just turned 3 when the family went missing. The McStay family were living in Fallbrook, California when they went missing. And they seemed like a very happy, everything seemed to be going well in their life. They were successful. So a few months before the family goes missing, they had bought a new home in Fallbrook, California, and they were doing renovations to kind of get the house ready. And they planned to, at some point, fix up the house and then sell it and then move out of the home. Joseph McStay, who was the father, ran a company called Earth Inspired Products. And what he made were waterfall features that you would see inside buildings or hotels. If you go into a building or a hotel and they have a huge wall and it's like a waterfall going down, that was the type of thing that he made. And he was very successful in this business because one of these waterfall features could cost $200,000, and that was on like the low end. So he was very successful in this business. And this business is going to be a huge part of the story. Summer McStay, who was the mother, she was a realtor. She had taken some time off to stay home with the kids, but it was believed that she was planning on going back to work shortly before they disappeared. On February 4th, 2010, at 7:47 p.m., a neighbor of the McStay, their surveillance camera that they had outside their home, caught a video of a vehicle leaving the McStay residence that was not a vehicle that the McStays owned. But the video, you couldn't see in the video, it was only the bottom half of the car. So you can't see in the video any of the occupants that are actually in the vehicle. This surveillance video became very important because it was the last video showing anyone leaving or going to the McStay family's home. At 8:28 p.m. that night, there was a cell phone call from Joseph, the father, to Charles Chase Merritt, who is extremely important in this story. He was a business partner of Joseph. Charles Merritt went by Chase, so I'm just going to refer to him as Chase for the rest of the video. But Chase was a welder, so he was the person who would actually go in and make these waterfalls. So Joseph ran the business, it was his company, and Chase was a worker who did welding and created the products that Joseph would sell. And this phone call is the last phone call that Joseph ever made. Chase did not answer the telephone when Joseph called. He said that he saw the call coming in, he saw it was from Joseph, and he was just too busy and decided not to answer the call. And no one from the family would ever be heard from again. Over the next week, different family members and co-workers were trying to contact the McStay family, and nobody was having any luck at all. Joseph's family, his father and his brother, they didn't seem that concerned that the family, no one could reach them. Both of them thought that possibly the family had gone on a vacation and just not told anyone. Chase Merritt, however, who was his co-worker, he was very concerned, and he was contacting the family, telling them that I cannot get a hold of Joseph, and it's been days and days and days going by. So 9 days went by and no one had heard from the family. Finally, on the 9th day, Michael McStay, who is Joseph's brother, and Chase Merritt go to the McStay home to check to see if they're there, what's going on, just to try to figure out what's happening. When the two of them arrive at the McStay household, Michael, his brother, was able to kind of get in a back window in the house, and he's able to get inside the house. He goes and opens the front door. He lets Chase into the home, and things in the home are very strange. So it doesn't look like there's been any type of struggle or any type of foul play that's happened in the home. But some of the things that are concerning is there's been food left out. So there were eggs in a carton that were sitting on the kitchen counter. There was bowls of popcorn in the living room. There was an apple that had had a bite out of it. And the most significant, I think, is the family's two dogs were in the backyard and had been there for those 9 days with no one taking care of them. So at this point, the idea that the family had gone on this vacation and just not told anyone doesn't seem very realistic. Possibly they may have left a window open by mistake. The food being out, I don't know, maybe they were packing the car and forgot to put it away, but the dogs being in the backyard for 9 days with no food or water, nobody's going to do that with their dogs. So finally, after the 9 days, Chase wants the brother to contact the police. But Michael McStay, the brother, waits 2 more days before he contacts the police. After now 11 days missing, it's now February 15th, Michael McStay, Joseph's brother, finally contacts the police and reports the family missing. So the San Diego Police Department come out to the house, kind of take a look around. The San Diego Police Department goes to get a search warrant. It takes them 2 days to obtain the search warrant. So they don't end up entering the home until February 19th, which is 15 days since this family has last been heard of. Immediately, the police don't suspect foul play. They consider this that the family has gone missing voluntarily. And this makes absolutely no sense to me at all. The house looks like the family was in the middle of doing things, and for some reason, every single member of that family left the house without closing it up, without putting food away, without having anyone to take care of the dogs, which I don't know why that's not more alarming. People don't leave their dogs home alone in the backyard with no food or water to go on vacation. But the police are not suspicious really at all. The police believe that the family went missing voluntarily for quite a number of reasons. One of them being that there is no sign that anything of foul play had happened in the home, and there's no sign that any type of crime was committed. But the family was missing for 15 days before the police entered the home. So anybody could have committed any type of crime in that home and had 15 days to clean it up. So it's mind-boggling to me why the police didn't take this more serious, but we'll just keep going with the story. The police end up finding out that the McStay family car had been towed on February 8th. So it's believed the family went missing on February 4th. That's the last time anyone spoke to any of them. 4 days later, their car is abandoned near the Mexican border. This leads the police to believe that the family left voluntarily and went into Mexico. Another reason the police give that they believe that the family went into Mexico was on the family computer, there was a search that was asking what documents are required for a child to enter Mexico. And there was information about Spanish lessons on the family computer as well. But they live really close to the Mexican border. To me, it doesn't seem strange that they would take trips to Mexico. If you live that close to the Mexican border, I don't think it's that strange that you would be looking on your computer to find out what documents are needed to enter Mexico. The other problem with this theory is that Summer's sister, so Summer is the mother, her sister tells police that Summer's passport is expired. So with Summer's passport being expired, she would be able to get into Mexico. However, she would not be able to get back into the United States without her passport. The police's belief that the family has just run away to Mexico to hide from everyone they know, it doesn't make sense financially either, because the family has $100,000 in their bank account that is left untouched. They also go back and look at financial records to see, at some point, did the family take out a large sum of money? I don't know. If you're going to run away to another country with a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, I'm pretty sure you're going to take as much money as possible. And for a family to run away and leave $100,000 cash in their bank account, to me, doesn't make any sense. And at the time that this was happening in Mexico, there was a lot of gang violence going on. There was a lot of drug wars. Mexico at this time in 2010 was not a very stable, safe place to travel. So you've got to imagine you have two parents with a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old taking their kids into a country that is quite dangerous at this period of time without money. It doesn't make sense to me anyways. Police then release this footage, they say, that is the McStay family walking through the Mexican border into Mexico. And I'll put an image of it in here, but all you can see is there's 2 adults and 2 children. You cannot tell anything about who these people are. It's just 4 figures. All you can tell is there's 2 adults, 2 children. There's nothing in this photo that you could identify and say, yeah, that's them. But the police use this as proof that somehow this is the McStay family. And this video was taken on February 8th, which is 4 days after the family went missing. And it's the same day that their car was found near the Mexican border. And I can remember back when this video was actually released, while the McStay family was still missing, and people analyzed this video to death. But the fact of the matter is, you can't tell who those 4 people are. The only thing that you can tell is there's 2 adults and 2 children, and that's it. There's no way to tell that this actually was the McStay family. And we now know it's definitely not the McStay family, but police took it very serious and really did believe that this was the family. They put out a be on the lookout with Interpol and tons of sightings of the McStays start coming in. There's all kinds of sightings of them in Mexico. There was sightings all over the world. People were claiming that there were sightings of them all over the world. And none of it was true. We now know none of it was true. But the problem is, when police put out an image and it's sent out to the whole world, look out for this family, everybody thinks they see them. So I think it really ended up wasting a lot of the police's time, because they did look into a lot of these leads and obviously they all led nowhere. April 2013, the police come out and make a statement saying that they believe the McStay family entered Mexico voluntarily. When the police made the statement that they believed the family had gone missing voluntarily, I don't know if the police really did believe that or not. To me, there's no evidence that the family went missing voluntarily. Anyone could have left their car at the border, and we'll find out someone else did. And the grainy image, it could be anyone. The police maybe put out this statement so that whoever had hurt or taken or knew where the McStay family was, maybe by police releasing this information, it would make that person more comfortable and think, oh, the police aren't looking for me. Because sometimes police will do that. They'll make it seem as though they're not looking for anyone to make the criminal feel comfortable and hoping they mess up to get evidence. So whether the police actually believe this or not, I don't think anyone really knows, obviously, other than the police. But I really hope that they didn't genuinely believe that, because there's a lot more evidence that they didn't disappear voluntarily than the fact that they did. And even though the public statement was made that they believed the family had left voluntarily, there were a lot of people that did not believe that. And the prime suspect was Chase Merritt. So Chase Merritt was the welder who would work on these waterfalls that Joseph McStay sold. But he had a hell of a lot going on. Chase Merritt had felony convictions for burglary and receiving stolen goods. And not that long before this happened, he had been charged with stealing, I think, $21,000 in welding equipment. So he had a very lengthy criminal record. And everything he did leading up to and after the disappearance of the McStay family is so sus. The money for Joseph's company is an extremely important part of this case. The way the money was managed through Joseph's company was done through QuickBooks. And through the QuickBooks, he would put in, obviously, money that goes out, money that goes in, if checks are issued, if checks are received. It just basically is a ledger keeping track of all the finances of the company. The last day the family's heard from is February 4th. But when they start investigating the finances of the company after the family has gone missing, they noticed on February 1st, so 3 days before the family goes missing, that someone else is accessing the QuickBooks. Normally, the only person that would ever access the QuickBooks and the finances of the company was Joseph McStay. But February 1st, somebody went in there and wrote checks to Chase Merritt. Now, who is going to write checks to Chase Merritt other than Chase Merritt? On February 3rd, one day before the family goes missing, Chase Merritt opens a new bank account, and that is the bank account that he deposits the checks that he had written to himself from the company. So that's where he's putting the money that he's stealing. After the family goes missing on February 4th, a few days later, Chase Merritt goes back into the QuickBooks and he steals another $20,000. Between when the family goes missing and when the police finally show up and check the McStay household, Chase Merritt had contacted QuickBooks and made a very, very odd request. He had contacted QuickBooks and asked them to delete all the information about the finances for the business online. He wanted it so the only record of the finances of the company would be on Joseph McStay's computer. QuickBooks absolutely did not do this because they found this request extremely, extremely bizarre. They'd never had a request for someone to do that because normally you want a backup of all the financial information of your entire company. You don't want that information only on one computer unless you're trying to hide something. So QuickBook never does delete what Chase wants them to delete. So when the investigation goes on, that's how they're still able to get all of this information. But Chase did try to get that evidence to disappear. On November 13th, 2013, which is about 3.5 years after the family went missing, 911 received a call. The caller was riding his dirt bike out in the desert. It was about 100 miles from where the McStay family lived, and he was calling to report that he was out there on his dirt bike and he came across a human skull. 4 bodies were found in 2 shallow graves in the San Bernardino County desert. And it was very quickly determined that it was the McStay family. It was Joseph McStay, Summer McStay, and the 2 young boys, Gianni and Joseph Jr. The 4 of them had all been bludgeoned to death. In one of the graves, there was a 3-pound sledgehammer, which is believed to have been the murder weapon. On November 4th, 2014, Chase Merritt was arrested in connection with the McStay murders. Merritt admitted that him and Joseph had had lunch together and he had spent about an hour with him that day. When police looked at phone records, it showed that Chase Merritt had called Joseph McStay 37 times on the day that the family went missing. Another thing that was found was in the QuickBooks, there was actually information as to what money was owed to the company by Chase Merritt. So what police believe happened is that Joseph McStay found out that Chase was stealing from his company. They believe that the 2 of them met up for lunch and Joseph told Chase that he needed to repay the money and most likely fired him. And I think Joseph's a pretty nice guy. If he found out that Chase was stealing from him, he didn't contact the police. It seems as though he went to Chase to give him the opportunity to pay him back, which, I mean, that's a pretty nice thing to do, in my opinion, because if I had a company and somebody was stealing money from the company, I'd call the police. It was found out during the investigation that Chase Merritt had a horrible gambling addiction. And I don't know if you remember, but he had stolen about $20,000 from the company after the McStays had gone missing. He had taken that $20,000 to a casino and gambled all of it away. They did DNA testing on the McStay family car, and obviously Joseph and Summer, their DNA was in the car, but Chase Merritt's DNA was in the car, but it was on the driver's side. So Chase had told the police that he had been in the vehicle before. They were co-workers. He said that they were best friends. Whether or not they actually were, not really clear, but he had driven in the car before, but as a passenger. But they found his DNA on the driver's side. So police believed that the DNA evidence that they found of Chase Merritt was indicating that Chase Merritt was the last person who had driven that vehicle. And as I had mentioned, they also looked at the phone records and saw that Chase Merritt had called Joseph McStay 37 times that day. And they also know that Joseph had called Chase back in the evening, but Chase had never answered. But another thing they found was Chase's phone pinged off of the cell phone tower that was beside the shallow graves in the desert. And his cell phone pinged off that tower in the desert by the graves on February 4th in the evening that the family went missing. So Chase was originally arrested November 5th. In connection with the murder. He was actually arrested and charged with the 4 murders on November 7th. And the prosecution was going to seek the death penalty. And the police and the prosecution theorized that Chase Merritt had killed the 4 family members in their home. But there was no sign of any type of struggle, any type of blood, and the police never treated the home as a crime scene. But it was also 15 days after they went missing before the police even entered the residence. So, I mean, there's a lot of time to clean up. And not only that, is once it was determined the family was missing, Joseph's mother went in and cleaned the entire house with bleach. And this obviously is not her fault. She was probably just concerned, not knowing where the family is and probably trying to keep herself busy. And the house did need to be cleaned up a bit because there was food left out and there was renovations going on in the home. But the police never protected the crime scene at all. So she had no reason to not clean. The police never told her not to. They never treated it like a crime scene. The family was free to go and come and take what they wanted and do as they pleased. Chase Merritt was found guilty and sentenced to death, but California, quite quickly after this case had actually taken place, stopped going through with executions. So Chase Merritt is still alive in prison. Something else I found out that I found really interesting, I didn't know where to put this in the story, but Chase Merritt's brother was actually accused and held in prison for months as being a suspect of the Hillside Strangler. Because if you know anything about the Hillside Strangler, they originally thought the Hillside Strangler was only one person. And they believed that one person was Chase Merritt's brother. So he was put in prison, held for months. And eventually, obviously, they find out it was Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Bieno, I think his last name is. Anyways, the Hillside Stranglers. But what had ended up happening is the police released him and said, okay, he didn't do it, like Chase Merritt's brother. But it completely destroyed his life, because if you're accused of something as horrible as being the Hillside Strangler, even if the police come out and say, oh, sorry, we had it wrong, there's probably people going to doubt you for the rest of your life. But yeah, I just found it really interesting as I was researching it. That just kind of got thrown in there, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? The Hillside Strangler? Who? What? So yeah, if you want me to cover the Hillside Strangler, I could do that sometime as well. Just let me know. But I really appreciate you guys being here, and I do apologize. I know in this video my voice probably sounds strange. I've been really sick for the last, it's like going on 6 weeks now, so I'm still trying to do the videos and get them out for you guys, because I love doing it. But yeah, my voice, I'm having a hard time with. But thank you guys so much for being here, supporting the channel, liking, watching, sharing, all those beautiful, wonderful things. You guys are absolutely amazing. Let me know in the comments who you'd like me to talk about. And I will see you in the next one.